Well, we are getting into a busy summer season, and of course, that means a lot of visitors coming through Alberta looking for perhaps some fishing opportunities. And that also means that we need to see those boats inspected for invasive species. A real pleasure to welcome Megan Evans, the Executive Director of the Alberta Invasive Species Council, to the program. Megan, obviously putting a price tag on the value that inspections bring to the table is, well, you just can't do it because of what's at risk, right?
Absolutely. I think, when dealing with invasive species, preventing them from being introduced is the single best way, the single most cost effective and the most efficient way to manage them. And these boat inspection stations are a really big part of that.
Let's refresh folks. What are inspectors looking for when boats are coming into Alberta?
So, what the inspectors are looking for, regardless of where they're coming from, but specifically if they're coming in from out of province, and specifically if they're coming in from the southern and eastern border, they're looking for any standing water, because any standing water or any debris or plants or mud or things that are attached to the boats. Fundamentally, what we're looking for here are aquatic invasive species. So these are species that live in the water. They're not supposed to be here. They originated somewhere else and they have real risk to pose real risk to Alberta's water bodies. In Alberta, we have 52 prohibited aquatic invasive species. That includes plants, insects, mussels, fish, all kinds of different types of aquatic invasive species. So those inspectors are looking for anything on the boat that would transmit those aquatic invasive species. The reason why they don't want to see any standing water in your boat is because there could be microscopic eggs or larvae that are free floating in water that aren't even visible to the eye. And then, of course, they're looking to make sure your boat is clean, drained, and dried, ensuring that it is clean of debris and it is not taking with it any unwanted hitchhikers that might be introduced to Alberta's water bodies.
I literally do count the blessings that we have these inspection stations, and people are, for the most part, um, following the regulations and getting their boats inspected. Because over the last number of years, there have been numerous positive results of these inspections, and just one of these zebra mussels, upwards of 1 million eggs. So the fact is that these stations are working, and so far we've mounted a pretty effective defense.
Absolutely. Last year, I just had a look at the numbers. There was over 13,000 watercraft inspections at Alberta watercraft inspection stations. And of those, there was 15 mussel-fouled boats. Now, that might sound like a really small proportion, but any of those 15 boats could have been the introductory vector, which could have started an invasive mussel, like these zebra and quagga mussels. It could have started an infestation of these mussels that really, realistically, once they're here, we have very limited options for controlling and eradicating them. Once they're here, we kind of are stuck dealing with them. And the zebra mussels are probably, the biggest priority aquatic invasive species to keep out of Alberta because they pose such a significant risk. And what they do is they attach themselves to any hard surface, including, water, any type of water infrastructure. Irrigation pipes we're particularly concerned about. They'll attach themselves to boats, docks, and then they dramatically upset the aquatic ecosystem. As you said, one zebra mussel the size of your fingernail can produce 1 million eggs in a season, and one zebra mussel can filter 1 liter of water per day. So that's removing really crucial, really important food for all of the other critters in the food chain, right? And so the result is an unrecognizable and often irreversible change to the ecosystem and constant economic issues with regard to maintenance and damage due to this infrastructure that is coated and encrusted with these invasive zebra mussel shells.
Now, this issue posed such a threat to Alberta that I guess it was last year that the province announced a special task force, of which you were one of the members. I know that there's still stuff that you perhaps cannot get into because I guess it's still an ongoing thing. But just at the top level, Megan, maybe talk a little bit about some of the concerns and have your suggestions been picked up by the province?
Yeah, so the province did release the report, which involved summarizing the main suggestions from that aquatic invasive species task force. That report was published in December, so there are some key recommendations, and it seems like those have been accepted and are being implemented. And for example, one of the big changes that we're seeing this spring is the requirement for mandatory boat inspection stations. And that requirement is for boats entering Alberta from the east and the southern border. Those are our highest risk introductory ways of these zebra mussels and quagga mussels. So if you leave the province and come back over the southern or the eastern border, or if you are from somewhere else and you enter Alberta from the southern or eastern border, you are now required to seek out a boat inspection. And that is in contrast to the previous requirements where you just had to stop if you were driving by an open watercraft inspection station while towing a boat. Now you must seek it out and or get an inspection prior to launch or within 7 days. So you need to seek out that inspection prior to launch and within 7 days of entering the province. And that's a really important it's a really important step in closing and minimizing our risk of that introduction of those really, really destructive zebra and quagga mussels, because the primary areas where they are infested is most of North America at this point. But for the most part, it's the places where they are to the south and to the east of us, which is why the south and the east are the kind of the priority borders.
And as I understand it, a program to identify boats that have been inspected are now issued with a sticker.
Yeah, so once you go to a boat inspection station, the process, you go through, you're first asked a number of questions to assess your level of risk. If your boat is clean, drained, and dry, and you haven't come from any infested water bodies or a high priority area, you get a sticker and an inspection form. So keep those with you. You may be asked to show those at a later stage when you're in different parts of the province, but that shows that you have had your boat inspected. If you showed up to a boat inspection station and your boat is not clean, drained, and dried, then you may have to go through a decontamination process, and your boat may even be put into quarantine if you come from a water body that was infested with these invasive mussels.
And of course, the cost to a boat owner for failing to stop or failing to get one of these inspections is pretty significant.
Alberta, yeah, I must say we take our invasive species very seriously here in this province. Last year, the fine for failure to stop at an open watercraft inspection station was increased to $4,200. That is the steepest fine in North America. So I think that's a good thing, and hopefully we don't issue any of those fines, right? Because the goal is to have people to stop and to understand just the reality and the importance of this issue.